Hi, I'm Pam Keene Brantley, the owner of Realty Masters of Florida, and welcome to the Realty Masters Lease video. We hope this video serves as a helpful tool in understanding your lease agreement. We understand that all the information that comes with the agreement can be overwhelming, so please feel free to refer to this video or to your actual lease at any time. If you have any further questions, all the necessary contact information, as well as our location, hours of operation, and more will be available at the end of the video. But for now, please enjoy, and I'll see you after the video.
The lease is agreement between the landlord and you, the tenant. The tenant is the person to whom this property is leased, and the landlord is the owner of the property or their representative. The terms of your lease agreement will specify the total and monthly rental amounts, as well as the beginning and ending dates of the lease. Refer to your lease agreement or landlord for information on your particular property. If the property is sold or is under contract to be sold, the tenant agrees to vacate within 60 days written notice from the landlord. Only the people listed as occupants on the lease may live in the premises unless given written consent from the landlord. You may have a reasonable amount of guests without written consent for up to 14 days. You may not assign or sublet the property to anyone else. Each adult over the age of 18 is subject to background screening. The tenant may not keep any animal in or around the rental property without the landlord's prior written approval and a signed pet addendum. A non-refundable pet fee is required when you move in and does not cover damages. You are responsible for providing photos of all pets, including aquarium or caged animals. The landlord has sole discretion and can withdraw the right to allow you to have pets. The landlord also has the right to issue a 7-day notice to remove a pet for any reason, including noise, barking, damages, or threatening behavior. In extreme cases, this can lead to eviction. We do not allow breeding and insist that you pick up after your pet and obey leash and county laws regarding your pets. Pets cannot be kept tied up on chairs or kept on balconies or shared hallways. You are responsible for all damages by your pets, such as fleas, stains, odors, or damages to blinds, baseboards, flooring, and paint.
In the rent section of your lease agreement, you'll find specific information regarding prorated rent, advanced rent, and monthly rental rates. Rent is due on the 1st of the month and will be late after the 3rd. Methods of payment include paying in the office, using the drop box, or mailing in your payment. You may also use PayClicks to make your payment before the 4th. We do not accept cash or post-dated checks. Tenants listed on the lease may pay with a single personal check. Multiple money orders are acceptable. In the event that your check bounces, it will be subject to an additional 5% of the check amount or a $30 charge, or from then on, you must pay with the certified funds. If the landlord has knowledge that there are insufficient funds to cover a check, the rent will be considered unpaid, and the landlord may then serve the tenant with a 3-day notice on any day thereafter as allowed by law. You must notify the landlord if your rent will be late. Late payments made on the 4th day of the month or later must be paid in certified funds and are subject to late fees. The security deposit will be held in a non-interest-bearing account in a predetermined bank agreed upon by the tenant and the landlord. Florida Statute Chapter 83 lays out the details of the return provisions of your security deposit. When you move out at the end of your lease, the landlord has 15 days to return the entire security deposit, which will be a check mailed to all parties on the lease, sent to your last known address. Otherwise, the landlord has 30 days to give you written notice by certified mail of any intention to keep the deposit and the reason why. You have the right to dispute it, but you must object in writing sent to the landlord's address within 15 days from the time you receive the notice. After that, Realty Masters shall be held harmless.
All tenants' personal property shall be at the risk of the tenant. The landlord shall not be liable for any damages to said personal property of the tenant due to criminal acts, fire, storms, floods, rain, wind damages, acts of negligence of any person, whomever, or from the bursting or leaking of water pipes. The tenant is strongly urged to secure renter's insurance for their personal property. The use of premises section of your agreement urges the tenant to maintain the premises in a clean and sanitary condition and not disturb surrounding residents of the peaceful and quiet enjoyment of surrounding premises. The tenant shall install window shades or draperies 15 days of taking occupancy if not already provided. Foil, sheets, and paper are not permitted. The premises are to be used and occupied by the tenant for only residential, non-business, and private housing purposes only. The tenant shall not operate any type of daycare or child-sitting service on the premises. Waterbeds and trampolines are also not allowed on the premises. The landlord is responsible for providing the utilities previously agreed upon in your lease agreement. The tenant agrees to pay all charges and deposits for all other utilities and agrees to have all accounts for utilities immediately placed in their name, with accounts kept in good standing throughout occupancy. If the utilities which the tenant is responsible for are still in the landlord's name at the time of the tenant taking occupancy, the tenant agrees that the landlord shall order such utilities to be terminated.
You must have written consent from the landlord before painting, installing fixtures, making alterations, additions, or improvements. Any approved alterations or fixtures become the landlord's property and will remain on the premises when the lease ends. Smoking is not allowed inside the premises at any time. Smoke is harmful, so even when outdoors, please be considerate of others. If smoke residue is found in the house, the tenant will be responsible for the full cost of painting the walls, doors, ceiling, and replacing any flooring or carpet if necessary. Possessing, manufacturing, selling, or using illegal substances of any kind directly violates the rental agreement and will result in termination of tenancy, as does engaging in acts or threats of violence, including unlawful discharge of firearms on, near, or within sight of the premises. Calling 911 to report any of the above activity in or near your residence is strongly urged. Default in your rental agreement can occur several ways: falsifying information on your lease agreement, failure to pay rent, failure to move in, abandoning the property, or breaking HOA rules. Please refer to your HOA addendum in your lease agreement for more information. If any of the above occurs, it is within the landlord's right to begin the eviction process. If the landlord employs an attorney due to the tenant's violation of the terms and condition of this lease, the tenant will be responsible for all costs and reasonable attorney's fees incurred by the landlord, whether or not the suit is filed.
All vehicles on the premises must be licensed, registered, operational, and have a tag. Trailers, campers, vehicles on blocks, motorcycles, boats, or commercial vehicles are not allowed without prior written approval. We ask that you do not repair or disassemble your vehicles or park on grass. Vehicles not meeting these requirements and additional rules of the landlord will be considered unauthorized and will be subject to being towed at the tenant's expense. The tenant must agree that they have fully inspected the premises and accepts the conditions of the premises in as-is condition, with no warranties or promises expressed or implied. The tenant is also expected to treat this property as if it were their own, with some minor maintenance work which will be specified in the maintenance addendum portion of the video. The property must be kept clean and maintained in such condition. In the event a major repair to the premises must be made, you must notify the landlord immediately. If there are problems with water or power, the tenant should turn off the water or trip the breakers immediately and report it to the landlord. If tenant fails to safeguard the property, they could be held liable. The tenant will be responsible for damages to screens, doors, locks, or windows caused by forced entry. AC filters must be changed every month. In accordance with Florida statutes and the Landlord-Tenant Act, the landlord is responsible for making repairs to the roof and siding, as well as the maintenance and repair of your major appliances, including water heater, heating and air, range, dishwasher, fridge, plumbing, and electrical. Maintenance requests are to be submitted in writing. Be sure to provide current contact information, and the vendor will contact you to schedule a visit. Realty Masters hires subcontractors who are licensed and insured. If you don't hear from a vendor within 24 hours of submitting maintenance requests, please contact your property manager. Non-warranted items include microwaves, garbage disposals, ice makers, washers and dryers, ceiling fans, whirlpools, or jacuzzis. If these items are present at the home, they are accepted in as-is condition and are not the landlord's responsibility to maintain, repair, or replace. The number of smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and fire extinguishers shall be acknowledged by the tenant, and a receipt must be signed stating that they are all properly installed, tested, and are in good working condition. Be sure to notify the landlord immediately if a problem occurs with any of these devices. It is the tenant's responsibility to replace the batteries. Realty Masters will not be held liable for any damages arising from tenant neglect.
Molds are naturally occurring organisms, many of which are common and harmless, but some can be harmful to your health, so it's important to reduce moisture and conduct proper housekeeping to reduce the chance of mold growth. Check for leaks under sinks, around toilets, tubs, refrigerator drip pans, around air conditioning vents, and washer hookups. Maintaining adequate climate control in your home is very important. Periodically open windows during dry weather to allow for proper ventilation. Keep closet doors ajar. Use ceiling fans. Open blinds regularly to allow light in. Do not hang dry clothes inside, and avoid excessive amounts of plants. It also helps to use hood vents when cooking and cleaning the kitchen. Use bathroom fans during and after showers, and leave the shower curtain and bathroom door open after showering. Here are a few helpful tips for proper housekeeping. Sweep, mop, and vacuum regularly, and wipe down any moisture inside the home, including floors, sinks, and around air conditioner vents. Remove garbage daily. Clean out any rotted food from the fridge, and wipe down windows and window sills regularly. Remember, the bathroom is the most common place for mold to grow, and you could be responsible for damages caused by mold growth if not properly cared for. For small areas of mold where it's not due to an ongoing leak or moisture problem, the tenant must agree to clean the area with soap and a small amount of water. Apply a non-staining disinfectant like Lysol mildew or Clorox cleanup. The following issues need to be reported in writing to the landlord by the tenant immediately. Any visible or suspected mold. Any maintenance issue that produces moisture, such as plumbing leaks, air conditioning overflows, or problems with hot water heaters. Also report any discoloration of walls, baseboards, ceiling, and window frames, loose or missing grout or caulk around tubs, showers, sinks, or faucets. The landlord has the right to terminate the tenancy, and the tenant has to vacate the premises if the landlord feels there may be a health hazard. The tenant can be held liable for damage to the property or health problems for not complying with these agreements. Lawn maintenance is just as important as housekeeping. The tenant will be expected to keep up with raking, pulling weeds, mowing, trimming bushes, edging, and watering. Tenant is urged to notify the landlord of dangerous trees or other hazardous situations. Realty Masters may hire a landscaping company at tenant's expense if necessary.
If the landlord agrees to the tenant remaining in the premises after the lease expires and no new lease is signed, the lease will be extended as month-to-month tenancy, resulting in an additional $50 month-to-month fee. This may be terminated by the tenant given written notice no less than 30 days prior to the end of any monthly payment period. Written notice must be sent to the landlord by certified mail. Failure to give adequate notice or failure to vacate after the initial lease term can result in losing the security deposit or being held liable for holdover rent. The landlord, upon reasonable notice, either by telephone, hand delivery, or by posting notice to the tenant, has the right to enter the premises for showing, repairs, appraisals, inspections, or any other reason. The landlord also has the immediate right of entry in cases of emergency or to try to protect or preserve the premises. Tenants may not alter or add locks without prior written consent. If consent is given, the tenants must provide a key to all locks to the landlord. The landlord reserves the right to place for sale or for rent signs on the premises at any time. At the expiration of the lease or extension, the tenant will peacefully surrender the premises, turn in all keys and any other property owned by the landlord, and leave the premises in good, clean condition. If all keys are not turned in, there will be a $40 fee. Upon move out, the tenant must have the carpet cleaned professionally by a Realty Masters approved vendor who is licensed and insured, or incur a minimum carpet cleaning charge of $75.
Any service member may terminate their rental agreement by providing the landlord with a written notice of termination to be effective on the date stated on the notice, that is at least 30 days after the landlord's receipt of notice, if any of the following criteria are met. Service member is PCSing more than 35 miles from the property or moving on to base housing. Service member is released from active duty or receives orders for temporary duty for more than 60 days. A copy of the official orders or signed letter from the commanding officer is required before the 30-day notice takes effect. Specific rules apply to military personnel, so please review your military clause before signing. The tenant agrees to reimburse the landlord upon demand in the amount of the loss, property damage, or cost of repairs or service, including plumbing issues caused by the negligence or improper use by the tenant or the tenant's family or guests.
If for any reason the premises are condemned, destroyed, rendered uninhabitable or dangerous, or damaged through fire, water, wind, flood, or act of God, any kind of accident, or it becomes necessary, in the opinion of the landlord, that the tenants must vacate the premises and orders for repairs to be made, the lease shall terminate, and the tenant, if not in default, shall own no further rent due under the terms of rent. The tenant also waives all claims against the landlord for any damages suffered by such damage, destruction, or lease termination.
As your real estate company, we have always protected your right to privacy, and we are required by law to inform you of our policies regarding privacy of client information. We keep records to better serve you as required by law, but we do not disclose any non-public information. In order to guard your personal information, we maintain physical, electronic, and procedural safeguards that comply with our professional standards. Please call if you have any questions, because your privacy, our professional ethics, and the ability to provide you with quality financial services are very important to us. Housing built before January 1st, 1978 may or may not contain lead-based paint, which can pose health hazards if not taken care of properly. Before a landlord can rent out a pre-1978 built home, the landlord must disclose the possibility of all known lead-based paint hazards.
We hope this video will continue to be beneficial for the full enjoyment of your tenancy and the safeguard of the property. Please take advantage of our online forms, and remember, update all your information regularly for us to better serve you. As always, please feel free to contact us with any questions you may have. From the Realty Masters family, we thank you for trusting us with your housing needs.